we have an opportunity just like in 1980. In 1980, we were on an inexorable march toward statism, toward liberalism. And someone came forward and said, no, we have to go a fundamentally different direction. Not just a little better than what we were doing now, but a fundamentally different direction. And let me assure you that the powers that be in the Republican Party said, no, it's too radical. No, it's too scary. We can't have this guy who's too conservative be out there. We need someone who's more moderate. We need someone who can appeal to the middle. And they pushed for George H.W. Bush. Now, this was before Ronald Reagan was Ronald Reagan. Everybody now looks at Ronald Reagan and says, oh, wow, Ronald Reagan. But Ronald Reagan was someone who, well, you know, was this wild-eyed conservative governor of California and movie actor and remember voodoo economics and all of these things that people thought never could appeal to the broad swath of the American public. We needed someone who was not as threatening. We needed someone who was just a little better than Jimmy Carter. And now that's what they're saying again. We need someone just a little better than Barack Obama. Someone who's for government-run health care at the state level, but not at the federal level.
Exactly.
Right.
That's a little better. I don't know if it's a little better or not, to be honest with you. Looks the same to me. The more you look at Romneycare, the more Barack Obama's statement that he based Obamacare on Romneycare looks true. And in fact, Governor Romney just last week and some of his aides suggested that his objective when he becomes president is to repeal Obamacare, but then go out across the country and promote Romneycare in every state. What's the difference? It may be a little different, but it's certainly not the contrast we need if we're going to win this election. We have to have someone who does what Reagan does, who paints very bold colors, who's out and says that we're going to make Barack Obama, just like he did Jimmy Carter. He made Carter and Obama the issue in the campaign. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Do you want something fundamentally different for America? Do you want change that believes in you instead of government?
Yes, yes, yes.
I present the best contrast. Mitt Romney he goes out and says that, well, he's the best candidate because he can raise the most money and has the best organization. That's his big pitch to the people. He can win. Folks, he's not going to have the most money in the general election. Barack Obama's going to have more money. And if you think that he's going to be able to do to Barack Obama what he's done to a series of Republican candidates so far, which is to go out and spend 5 times as much and beat them up so he can, not promoting himself, but beating up the other side so he can win a primary here and a primary there, he's not going to be able to do that. He's going to be outspent badly. Any Republican will be. So having the most money, what is that? It's nothing. That helps you win the primary, but your objective is not to win the primary. Your objective is to get someone who can win the general election, right? Someone of principle, someone of core convictions, someone who can go out and articulate, no, Obamacare is wrong. Obamacare is a threat to the basic freedoms of our country. It is top-down government control of 1/6 of the economy, and it will destroy everything. Why? Well, this goes back to sort of founding principles, and it's really important we understand who America is. Ronald Reagan, when he left office, said his biggest concern with America going forward is that we had forgotten who we are, what America is all about. And of course, if you look at our schools and look at the popular culture, it's pretty easy to see that they're trying to rewrite history. Well, we need to remind America what made America great. And it wasn't big government. It wasn't control and providing and offering American security. It was just the opposite. America became a great country because, not because America gave you rights to things that the government would give you. No, America became a great country because we had a constitution and a government that was there to do one thing. I know I'm out here in the West, and one of my favorite movies is City Slickers. You may remember the character in City Slicker, Curly, who was actually played by a Pennsylvanian, Jack Palance. It's just for the record. he always talked about the one thing, right? You're looking for the one thing. Well, the one thing the Constitution's there to do, and our founders, is to protect the rights that are given to you by God. Amen. That's what.
Oh, thank you, Rick.
We are the only country in the world that established itself on the premise of God-given rights, and government is limited to protecting those rights. Imagine, no other country in the world has ever done that. All the other countries said your rights come from the king. Your rights come from the courts. Your rights come from the government. No, not in America. Because we recognize that a government that gives you rights is a government that can take those rights away. Right?
Excellent.
Just look at just out here on the Western Slope and what the government does. What do they do with the federal lands out here and limiting your rights and access to what's yours? These are your lands. Oh, but they always say we're doing it for your benefit. Right? Give us this power. Give us this control. And we'll take care of you. Right? We'll make sure that you don't do something to scar the land, or you don't do something to endanger a newt. No, not that newt. I want to endanger that newt. That's a different story. You just saw it most recently with Obamacare. I've talked about Obamacare as being this huge power grab of the federal government that will now make every single one of you dependent upon Washington, D.C. for your health. And once they do that, folks, they got you. Once you now have to go and pay tribute to Washington to get your medical care, or that of your daughter, or that of your mother, then they have you. Margaret Thatcher said when she left the prime ministership of England after serving during the time of Reagan, she said she was never able to accomplish in Britain what Reagan accomplished in America. She said the reason was the British national healthcare system. It created such a dependency on government that it fundamentally changes the culture. And you can see it even in ways that maybe most of you didn't even anticipate. It's not only when government says you have the right to healthcare, we're going to give you healthcare, that they can threaten to take it away. They can also tell you how to exercise that right to healthcare. And yes, that means what care that you can have access to. But also, as we saw just this past week, the Department of Health and Human Services just pushed forth a regulation. And it said that every insurance policy in America, including those with religious affiliations like the Catholic Church and Catholic schools and Catholic high schools and colleges and Catholic missions and Catholic hospitals, that they have to provide in their insurance policy free contraceptive, free abortifacients, and free sterilization procedures. And when the Catholic Church objected, they said, too bad.
Exactly.
You will do, we're going to give you this right, you will do what you are told. And if you don't do it, we will fine you. We will make it such a heavy fine that you will have to do what we tell you to do.
No,
I just saw that in the paper yesterday that Notre Dame College is going to have to be forced to do this, and if they don't, they announced they're going to have to pay about $10 million a year. If government creates a right, they own you, and they will tell you how to run your life. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most important election of your lifetime. This is an election where really freedom, the American way, the way that transformed the world, that believed limited government, free people, believed in your ability to provide for yourself and to build a family and to organize a church and a community and build this great nation on God-given rights from the bottom up. That is the blessing that America has given the world. And we transform the world. We forget, as government sings the siren song of, we can do more for you and better for you than you can do for yourself. We forget how much that freedom transformed the world. At the time of our founders, life expectancy was 35 to 40 years of age. Exactly what it had been since the time of Jesus Christ. We were an agrarian society, exactly what it had been at the time of Jesus Christ. And in 235 years, because America stopped the kings and the lords and the emperors ruling people, always for the benefit of the people. Stop the ruling, stop the class, stop the redistribution of wealth, and said, no, we're going to believe in you. We're going to let you succeed greatly. And we're not going to punish you or condemn you publicly for doing so. We're going to allow you...
Boy, you got it, Rick. Right on.
We're going to allow you to fail. We're going to allow you to fall. But we're going to always make sure that the ladder of opportunity is there to climb back up. And we're not going to create safety nets that become hammocks. We're not going to create... Right?
That's what they do. Oh, is that beautiful?
You're looking at the author of welfare reform. Did I author welfare reform when I was back in the House of Representatives representing a 70% Democratic district that had one of the highest populations of poverty in my state? Did I author welfare reform because I wanted to cut money? No. It's because I saw the devastation of government dependency in my own district. I saw what we were doing. We were looking at human beings and saying that poverty was a disability, that people were incapable of providing for themselves and that they needed government to help them and to be dependent upon them. When I heard Mitt Romney say the other day that he doesn't care about the very poor, that he doesn't care about the very rich or very poor, that his program's going to focus on the 95%. I thought, that's not the Republican Party I believe in. It's not the conservative movement in America. We need a president who doesn't believe in 95% or 99% like this president. We need a president who's concerned about 100% of Americans and giving them the opportunity to work.
Yes, yes.
Who's believed in an America that said, yes, even the poorest of the poor, if given a helping hand up. Yes, a helping hand up, but not a permanent one. Welfare was not a permanent hand up. You had a time limit, you had a work requirement. Why? Not because we wanted to punish anybody, because we understood that's the key to success in America. That's what works. We all know that. We all know that this country in 235 years went from life expectancy of 35 to life expectancy of near 80. Imagine, no change in life expectancy for thousands of years. And because of America, because of liberating the human spirit, and believing in you, and you believing in your own ability to provide for yourself, we changed the world. This is a moment in American history, ladies and gentlemen, where that basic premise is at stake.
Yep.
We need someone who can go out and talk to the American public. And as Reagan did, remind us who we are. Remind us what makes us great. America is not a great country because we're an ethnic group that has a great culture. No, we're not. We're all hyphenated Americans in this country, right? So if we're a hyphenated American, what is an American? American's not an ethnic group. It's not a race, not a creed. But in a sense, it is a creed. It's a different kind of creed.
It's what we
It's a
believe
creed
in.
that we hold in common. We hold in common. It's not a creed of a religious or sectarian creed. It's the American creed. And I believe it comes from our Declaration of Independence, which is the heart of what America is. Freedom.
Yep. Endowed by our Creator.
And the American creed is those words that you all know well. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their
Creator.
with certain unalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the
In
pursuit of happiness.
happiness.
You know what it means to be an American? That's what it means. That's what holds us together. That's what binds us. It's a belief in those basic values, where we get our rights from. America today is the greatest country in the history of the world, not because of our Constitution. Our Constitution is a great document. I know the Tea Party, and I hope there are Tea Party people here, because I love the Tea Party. And they do a great job in educating. That's one of the great things about the Tea Party. The sadness of our education and cultural system is that we have a country that, again, is not teaching us the basic values and the basic concepts of what made America great, and certainly the Constitution and the limits that are, and rights that are in the Constitution, freedoms in the Constitution, are very, very important. But the Constitution is the how of America. It's the operator's manual. The why of America is in the Declaration. And as great of a Constitution we have, if we don't have the Declaration, then what we have is tyranny.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a surprise that you see the progressives and the left constantly trying to move the Declaration off the stage and focus just on the Constitution, just on the rights that are guaranteed in the Constitution. This is exactly what they did in France, back in the Revolution of France.
Mm-hmm.
They had a constitution not dissimilar to the American Constitution. They had a constitution that, well, they've had about 18 of them since. We've had one. The reason is because their country was founded on the Constitution and three principles: liberty, equality, so far so good, and fraternity, brotherhood, not paternity, creator and fatherhood. And once, if we have a country that moves in the direction of denying, as we see from this administration, just forcing religion, forcing people to faith, forcing everything they possibly could to discriminate and to force religion out of the public square. I don't know if you saw this case that was just decided last week in the Supreme Court. It was called Hosanna Tabor, which is a synagogue. It's the name of the case. It was a 9-0 decision of the Supreme Court. How many of those do you see? 9-0 decision of the Supreme Court on employment discrimination.
Oh, that's right.
Because the Obama administration brought a case saying that churches had to hire ministers under the federal law of equality of opportunity. In essence, at the oral argument, the assistant solicitor for the United States, when asked a question, said that yes, the Catholic churches would have to hire women priests. That ultra-Orthodox would have to hire women rabbis. That the federal government can tell the church how to run their church.
No.
People say this president is radical. You have no idea how radical this president is.
Oh, yes, we do. Oh, yes, we do.
And he gets it. Folks, he gets it. He understands how the left can take charge in America. Destroy the two institutions that are the bulwark of America: the church and the family. You destroy those two things, then nothing's left to stop government from doing whatever they want to do to you. Because you become dependent upon them, and the new religion is the state, and the government is your new father and mother. Ladies and gentlemen, when I say this is the most important election of your lifetime, it is. Obamacare is the beginning. They're going to control you with the next that will come back. Trust me, cap and trade isn't gone.
Oh, well,
It's not gone. No, we've had a warm winter. And guess what's going to happen? Oh, the cries will come. The cries will come. Oh, see, we're destroying who knows what animal. And they will come and say, you, all of you, too many of you are destroying the planet. And we need to control your energy intake. For your benefit, of course. Right? For your benefit. It's always government doing things for you for your benefit. Just like the benevolent kings and emperors of the past. Ladies and gentlemen, we need a sharp contrast. We need someone who can go into this race and point and say, on health care, I've been for private sector health care from the very beginning. Any of you ever hear of health savings accounts?
Yes.
Yes.
You know who the author of health savings accounts was 20 years ago?
You.
Unlike Gingrich or Romney, I've never supported a government mandate that you have to buy the health care that the government tells you to buy. But both Gingrich and Romney have. Unlike Gingrich or Romney, I didn't support the Wall Street bailouts that said we are going to bail out our friends in Goldman Sachs and let Main Street suffer. And then the audacity of these two gentlemen who signed on to too big to fail. Signed on to say we have to bail out these big institutions because, well, if they failed, the economy would fail. And then they have the audacity to say, oh, we're against Dodd-Frank. What do you think Dodd-Frank does? Yeah. It institutionalizes what they just did with the Wall Street bailout. Yeah. It institutionalizes too big to fail. How legitimate are these two guys going to be in criticizing Obama and Dodd-Frank? Oh, Newt can throw out some funny lines about people going to jail, but he supported the basic concepts of Dodd-Frank. And you don't think the president's going to point that out? You don't think the president's going to point out what their positions is on health care, which is identical to his? You don't think he's going to point out that Newt sat on a couch with Nancy Pelosi and that Mitt Romney crowed as governor of Massachusetts that he imposed the first carbon dioxide cap on power plants in the history of our country? Folks, we need contrasts, right? We need contrasts. So much about these swing voters. If you're a swing voter, who are you going to believe? Someone who will be positioned as in the same position as the president, who now has rejected that view because, well, as John Huntsman said, we have candidates in this race that are well-oiled weather vanes. Good line. America's not looking for well-oiled weather vanes. They're looking for leaders who can go do the job that's necessary to get this country back growing and prosperous again.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's your charge. There are three people that can win this race on the Republican side. There's only one, in my opinion, that can win the race in the general election. The mainstream media doesn't want to talk about us. They don't want to highlight us. They want to keep focusing on these two folks because they are flawed candidates. They will be the issue in the campaign, not Obama, and if that's the case, we lose. Mm-hmm. Go get them, Brad. All right? That's just the bottom line. It's your job. Every generation has a responsibility. Just like the first generation. First generation that signed that Declaration of Independence. The signers of the Declaration wrote at the end of the Declaration that they pledged their lives, their fortune, and their sacred honor. Why? Because they wanted to create something special, something great, something God-given. They wanted to create this great experiment in ordered liberty, self-government. Never been done. They were willing to sacrifice it all. Imagine had we lost. Everyone would have been hanged. It's treason. These were people of wealth. They had stuff. They had lots of stuff. They weren't just folks who were rabble-rousers who had nothing to lose. They were people of means and property. They were people who could lose everything. Had a lot. They did. They stepped forward at a time when it looked like it was almost impossible for this little ragtag army of the Continental Army to take on the greatest, most powerful army at that time, maybe in the history of the world. And yet they did. They risked it all. The odds looked impossible. The odds are not impossible here. But you too, as descendants of that great inheritance, as stewards of that great inheritance, you too have to do your duty. I'm not asking you to risk your life over the next few days and few months. I'm not even asking you for your fortune, although if you go to ricksantorum.com. But I am asking you to place your honor on the line. How many times in the last year have you used the word honor? How many times do we hear it from politicians?
Rarely.
How many times do we hear it even in our popular culture, in our movies, in our stories? The word honor has faded from view. But that's what is at stake. Your honor. What your responsibility is to your family. Not just to America, but to your family. You are an inheritor of a rich inheritance, not just from America, but from your family, from your ancestors who fought and struggled in one way or another to give you what you have. Now your honor is at stake here in America. Each and every one of you have the responsibility to carry forward your family's honor, your community, this area of the country, the Western Slope. You're the stewards of this great inheritance. And what will you do? Some of you will walk out of here and say, okay, I'll vote for it. And if you do that, thank you, but it's not enough. Honor means more than just doing the minimum. You have a responsibility to do something great. We all do. I'm not saying great big things, but every little thing you do, cumulatively, can have great consequences. So I charge each and every one of you to go out from here and do your duty. Another word we don't hear too much about. Do your duty as great stewards of this inheritance. Fight like our founders and your ancestors did for the freedom, not on the battlefield, but on the battlefield of citizenship. And make a difference. Speak loudly, clearly, here on the Western Slope about the America you want to give to your children. You will make all the difference. Thank you. God bless you.